Welcome to the deep dive. Okay, so today we're really embarking on a journey, I think, into, well, a giant of literature, Miguel de Cervantes' Don Quixote. Yeah, and for this deep dive, we're working from a really insightful review of the novel. It does a great job digging into why this book is still so important. So our mission basically is to figure out why Don Quixote, which came out over 400 years ago, isn't just some dusty old classic. Why is it still seen as, well, foundational for Western lit? I mean, people call it the first modern novel, right?
Yep.
And it's got this incredible mixed comedy, tragedy, some deep philosophy, and surprisingly relevant social commentary too. Where do we even start?
It's quite something, isn't it? A book from the early 1600s just changing everything about storytelling. The review really nails its groundbreaking status. It came out in two parts, 1605 and then 1615. And yeah, it's widely called the first modern novel, but not just because it's old. It's modern because of what it did. It brought in new ways of telling stories like realism, developing characters psychologically, deep dives into their heads, and also this idea of the unreliable narrator, meaning, you can't always take what the narrator says at face value. It really did set the template for centuries of novels.
It's fascinating. Okay, so the technical stuff is huge.
Yeah.
But the story itself, the premise, it's just unforgettable, isn't it?
Yeah.
Can you walk us through that, how the review sets up Quixote's transformation?
Sure. So you meet Alonso Quijano. He's this old gentleman, a minor noble from La Mancha. Seems harmless enough, but he gets completely, utterly obsessed with reading these old books about knights and chivalry, like totally consumed. And this reading well, it makes him lose his grip on reality. The review points this out clearly. He decides he is a knight errant. He renames himself Don Quixote. His mission: revive knighthood, defend the weak. He grabs some rusty old armor, gets on his equally old horse, Rocinante.
Rocinante, right?
Yeah. And crucially, he convinces his neighbor, Sancho Panza, this very down-to-earth farmer, to be his squire.
And then comes maybe the most famous image from the book, the windmills. Everyone knows that bit. How does the review explain the symbolism there? Charging at windmills he thinks are giants.
Oh, absolutely pivotal. The review says it perfectly captures the core conflict. Don Quixote's huge, soaring idealism just crashing against mundane, ordinary reality. It's the perfect symbol. And his journeys, they swing back and forth, between these really funny misunderstandings, these almost slapstick moments, and then suddenly these incredibly moving thoughts about human dignity, illusion, what it all means, the search for purpose. It's quite a mix.
And the characters driving this. The review really focuses on Don Quixote and Sancho Panza, saying they defined an era. Let's talk about Quixote himself. Alonso Quijano is such a contradiction. What makes him stick with you?
He really is a masterpiece. The review stresses this noble heart he has, genuinely wanting to do good, but at the same time, his view of the world is just completely warped. So he ends up looking ridiculous a lot of the time, but somehow also admirable. You kind of laugh at him, but you also feel the strange empathy for his commitment, his belief.
Yeah, you do. And then there's Sancho Panza, the perfect counterpoint, right? What does the review highlight about his role?
Sancho is just essential. He's earthy, very grounded, practical. He brings the common sense, the reality check, often very funny because of it. But he's not just comic relief. He actually has these moments of real folk wisdom, surprising insight. And the review really emphasizes their relationship, how it grows. This bond between the idealistic dreamer and the practical peasant. It becomes one of the great friendships in literature. They really influence each other profoundly over the course of the novel.
That's a great point. And we should also mention Dulcinea del Toboso, this peasant girl he imagines as his great lady, his inspiration.
That's right, the idealized woman who fuels his quests, even though she's mostly in his head.
Okay, so beyond the characters and the adventures, the review digs into the deeper stuff, the themes that make it still resonate. What's the big one it kicks off with?
Yeah, the review immediately gets into illusion versus reality. That's central. I mean, Don Quixote spends the whole book mistaking inns for castles, flocks of sheep for armies, and of course windmills for giants. And the review poses this fantastic question that really makes you think. Is it madness to dream of a better world, or is madness the refusal to dream at all?
Wow.
Yeah. It pushes you. Is his madness actually a kind of necessary idealism, maybe even a form of resistance against just accepting things as they are?
That reframes it completely. What other themes does the review pull out?
Well, closely related is the nature of heroism. Quixote is trying to be this chivalric hero, which is totally outdated, obviously. But his courage, his idealism, even when it's misguided, it points to this ongoing human need we have for values, for something beyond just looking out for number one. It suggests heroism is maybe more about sticking to a code, even when the world laughs at you.
So it sounds like Cervantes wasn't just having fun with old knight stories. Was he using Quixote to say something about his own time, his society?
Oh, definitely. The review makes it clear this is also sharp satire of society. Cervantes uses Quixote's wanderings to poke fun at more than just chivalry books. He takes aim at, well, the review mentions things like the petty attitudes of some nobles, the problems with bureaucracy, the greed and hypocrisy he saw around him, issues that honestly still feel pretty relevant today.
Doesn't surprise me, unfortunately.
No. And then, underneath all the laughs and the satire, the review points to this deep exploration of the human condition, really universal stuff. Getting older, feeling disillusioned, trying to find some meaning or purpose when maybe the world doesn't quite get you or what you're trying to do.
So how did Cervantes actually pull this off? Weaving comedy, satire, philosophy. What did the review say about his writing style, his ingenuity?
The review really praises his incredible skill in blending everything. Satire, irony, realism. It's all in there. He balances the laugh-out-loud funny stuff with really profound moments. The story can shift really quickly from some farcical adventure to quite thoughtful commentary. And one thing the review highlights as super innovative is his use of metafiction.
Metafiction. In the 1600s.
Yeah, like characters in the book might actually mention the book Don Quixote, or the narrator might comment on the act of writing the story. It sort of breaks the fourth wall, reminds you it's a story. It feels incredibly modern for that time.
That is way ahead of its time.
Yeah.
And the novel's influence, how big was its impact, according to the review?
Oh, massive. The review basically calls it the book that kicked off the modern European novel. You can trace its DNA in so many later writers, big names like Dostoevsky, Kafka, Borges. It really changed how people thought about writing long-form fiction. And here's a fun detail from the review. Cervantes apparently wrote the second part partly because someone else published a fake, unauthorized sequel to the first part. Shows how popular it was even then.
Wow, a fake sequel. That's wild.
Isn't it? Plus, just think about the word quixotic, meaning, idealistic but impractical. It comes directly from this book. That alone shows its huge cultural footprint baked right into our language.
That's a fantastic point. Okay, so we've covered a lot of its strengths, but for a balanced view, what did the review see as maybe the single biggest strength for someone reading it today? And conversely, any potential challenges?
Well, besides all the innovation and themes, the review really suggests the most compelling thing today is probably the richness of the characters, especially that evolving relationship between Quixote and Sancho. Their bond, the humor, the arguments, the loyalty. It just feels so authentic and human. That really carries across the centuries.
Okay, that makes sense. And the challenges?
Yeah, the review is honest about a couple of things. First, it's long, like really long, over 900 pages usually. That can be intimidating. And some of the adventures, because it's episodic, might feel a little bit repetitive if you're reading it straight through. Also, there are definitely references to things 16th century Spanish life, specific chivalric romances he's parodying that a modern reader might just miss without footnotes or some background.
Right, context you might not have.
Exactly. But the review is pretty clear. These are, relatively minor hurdles compared to the book's overall power and timelessness.
So wrapping it all up, how does the review finally assess Don Quixote? What's the bottom line?
The review concludes that it's way more than just a funny parody. It calls it a profound meditation on dreams, on reality, on the strength, maybe the stubbornness of the human spirit. It says, yeah, it's humorous, it's often absurd, but ultimately it's about this guy who dares to believe in something bigger than himself, even when the whole world thinks he's crazy for it. The review gave it a 4.8 out of 5. Which is, pretty much a rave, speaks volumes about its enduring quality.
Wow, 4.8. That's huge. What an incredible book. It really is amazing how something from, 400 plus years ago can still hit so close to home. Idealism, reality, trying to find meaning.
It really does leave you thinking, doesn't it? The review kind of prompts this final thought. In a world that often tells us to be practical, to ditch the big dreams, Don Quixote makes you ask yourself, what are your windmills? What are those big, maybe slightly crazy, idealistic things you hold on to, even if other people just don't get it or think you're being foolish?
That's a great question to end on, something for all of you to think about.
Yeah.
What are your windmills? Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We'll catch you next time.